Good morning. Had a little problem this morning, a little Wi-Fi issue. Sorry about that.
All good.
I'm very sorry. Hope you guys had stuff to talk about for 10 minutes. I'm going to switch to my computer. I just got my phone to work. I'm just going to jump on my computer. So let's do that. So I was thinking about giving a talk I haven't given before. And but I think I'm going to go back to one that I have given before. Then I decided to go back to the one that I have given. I think I'm going to do one I haven't given. Let me get on my computer. Quinn, who's after me?
I think you're it today.
I'm it?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's nothing following me.
I think we try to keep it short on Fridays.
Okay. Signing in. I had to get on my computer, and it's a little bit. I have to go through the Northwell firewall. Hear the birds?
Someone said the birds make it sound like heaven.
I think that's what today's about. It's about exactly that, honestly. It's like hearing the birds sometimes, and I think I don't know. I've gotten into some philosophy, and I figured I would use this as an opportunity to give a talk that I wrote for a meeting that I never got to because of my flight was canceled. And I was pretty bummed out because I spent a lot of time on the talk. And never got there. And I made this talk and I never gave it. And I've been waiting to give the talk. It may be a little sophisticated for this group, but let's try it. I'm going to join from my computer now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I think a lot of times there's an effort made to bring healthcare and medicine down to something that's really sort of structural. Like, how do I get into medical school? What do I do to make neurosurgery better? What equipment can I use? What equipment do I need to do good surgery? I was asked to give a talk on neuronavigation, and I was thinking about this because, as you all know, it came up yesterday about that I was hurt. I broke my neck in January, and so I was just thinking that really the biggest tool you're going to use in your life and in anything you're doing is this tool right here, like right between the ears, that tool. And so we're going to go beyond neuronavigation a little bit by talking about how to make our brains work a little bit better. As you know, I when we started together, this was the original group of guys really that started Lenox Hill Neurosurgery. Jason, the first guy to my right, came around 2015, 2016, but John and I and Raphael and Mitch started in 2013, 2014. And it's really because of the way we treat each other and, the way we behave that has really led to, I think, our success. And so, we've had to buy a lot of equipment and we've had to, we don't, if anything, we have less equipment than everybody else. We have the same microscope. We bought a new exoscope. We're one of the only places that's an exoscope. I've talked about that in this meeting before. But at some point you begin to reach a plateau where how much more equipment can you get? You can buy all the cool stuff. If you're going to go into neurosurgery or go into medicine, I think that these are the three areas that are likely going to impact you. Big data, which is basically understanding all the data that comes in and putting into a computer. And then what pops out the other end is some answers that we never thought of, because computers are really good at sifting through data. Functional neurosurgery, which is a really cool area. It's basically brain-computer interface, making arms and legs move using a computer in your brain, or even treating Parkinson's disease, movement disorder, epilepsy. These are the areas that we're really studying better and understand, because the brain's a big computer and we're getting better at manipulating it and treating its failures. And that's all great. And we have to focus on those areas. But once again, the technology is beginning a plateau. I mean, I just talked to yesterday some doctors in Ukraine and Kyiv who are neurosurgeons. They basically have the same equipment we do. Their microscopes are older, but that it's at some point, no matter how much money you have, you can't do that much better with equipment. So the answer is the future of the technology and what you should buy. And I don't really know. I really don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there that is interesting. But at some point it's like, I don't want to make this decision anymore. I can't predict anything. I don't know where this is really going. What I would tell you is the more you focus up here, that you're likely to be successful, because that's where all the work is necessary. The future technology will be decided when it gets there. It's like predicting the stock market. Everybody knows exactly why the stock market changed the day after it happened. No one can really predict what's going to happen from day to day. And I really don't know what the future of technology is in healthcare or in neurosurgery. And so I think it's important that you tell you what I do know. And what I do know is that you don't control any of what happens. Zero. You have no control. The only control you have is in response to what happens. Or you can control certain things you can do. You can come to brain turns. You can listen to this talk. It's up to you. If you think this is boring, you can leave. Oops. It's the kind of thing that you just have to decide what you want to do. And so when I got hurt, and I was this is actually when I was going to rehab, actually, after my surgery. But, if you get hurt, things sort of change. You start to think about stuff. And I think that the important thing is to recognize what you know and what you don't know, and think about sort of the future in a way that only worry about what you can control. In general, I think a lot of people think, well, there's seven possibilities of what future technology exists in neurosurgery. Mike Lawton is a close friend of mine, and so I was teasing him a little bit, and he has these 7 series, which I would really recommend. They're great neurosurgery books on aneurysms, bypass, AVMs. They're terrific books. And I think that they are exemplary of an amazing surgeon, Mike Lawton, who's put together just tremendous effort in making these books. But I don't think even Mike can predict what the future is at all. You know, there's augmented reality, there's virtual reality, there's exoscopic reality, there's big data, there's the cloud, computer brain interface. I joke here, the search the missing RVU is the relative value unit, which is what we get paid for in our business. But that was just teasing. But we don't know what the future is. And I would say there are three people that I've read about that I'm not going to even try to predict, but I'm going to talk about these three people. And you may or may not have heard of any one of them, and they're all very different. Margaret Mead was an anthropologist and philosopher, sociologist in the early 60s. I like to call her the Oprah Winfrey before there was the internet. That's the kind of person that she was. John Glenn, who was the first Mercury astronaut, and didn't go into orbit. He just went up and down really fast. He didn't stay very long, and he became a senator, and then actually flew in the space shuttle as the oldest human to fly in the space shuttle. And then Marcus Aurelius, who was one of the good Roman emperors in the Roman Empire in 150 AD or so, who wrote a book that's really impacted me called Meditations, which is probably historically one of the finest pieces of literature there is. Someone asked me about what books I would read yesterday. I gave you a few of Ryan Holiday's books, which are really the source of some of this material. And Marcus Aurelius Meditations is just a phenomenal book. And I'd recommend reading it as soon as possible, because it could really impact your life. I've showed this slide before about what Margaret Mead said. You know, she was asked by a student what she considered to be the first sign of civilization in a culture. And the student, thinking Mead was, since she was this great anthropologist, would talk about, you know, broken bones or, you know, art on the walls, signs of fire. But no, Mead talked about, so the first sign of civilization in an ancient culture was finding a broken leg that had healed, a femur. She has explained that if you find someone who's survived a broken leg in the ancient world, or in, you know, not way back when, that's the first sign of civilization. That because you break your leg in the animal world, you die. You're eaten. You know, you can't run away. You can't get to the river to drink or hunt for food, and you're basically meat for prowling beasts, as she said. No animal survives a broken leg long enough for the bone to heal. So a broken femur that's healed is proof that someone has taken the time to stay with that person who's fallen, bound up the wound, carried the person's safety, and has tended the person through recovery. Because helping someone through difficulty is where civilization starts. We are at our best when we serve others. And I take this very seriously. I feel it's become an essential part of the way I think about my life and my efforts in healthcare. And it unfortunately, it goes a little too far sometimes. It takes away from the effort that I make. I think takes away sometimes from the people that I love, from my health in some ways. It could take away from your time. It could take away from your children. And that's not always good. But ultimately, the decision is yours of how you balance that effort. But if you're pure to yourself and you're just serving others, I think that it really fulfills the mission, not just of yourself as a physician, but by the same token, I think it's reflective of being a human being. And that's what human beings do. John Glenn was as I mentioned, I told you who he was, and I was reading his biography. And I as a young kid, I actually grew up and loving the Apollo missions, the guys that went to the moon. And I didn't think John Glenn was very interesting, because he just went to space and came back. He didn't even orbit the Earth. And he was the first man to orbit Earth. He didn't like go anywhere. And yet later on, when he died, when I read his obituary, I realized that I emulate him because of his modesty, his courage, and his conviction. That these are modesty and courage are actually, courage is one of the tenets of Stoicism, which is what this is kind of about. And I'll get into that. Being modest and being humble and kind is I think critical to all of our success. It's how I got disparate parts of people in my life together to form a group, and it continues to be important to me. And then you have to have conviction. You have to really stick to your plan, have a North Star focus, a goal you're trying to accomplish. And there are going to be obstacles. There are going to be people that torture you, that block you, that, try to stop you, are jealous of you, try to attack you, and just assume they're there and keep going because it's going to happen. Some people are pissed off that I've given this talk, I'm sure. That's the way it is. So Marcus Aurelius was the good emperor in Rome. And he said in 70 AD, now remember that the gods that back then, he was sort of at the early, this is around the age of Jesus Christ. Their gods were very different than our gods. And he said the two characteristics shared by gods and men and every rational creature is not to let others hold us back, and to locate the goodness in thinking and doing the right thing, and to limit your desires to that. And I think that's important. Doing the right thing. I think that's the other piece of this, that as long as you do the right thing, you can't fail. Even if you fail, even if you have an obstacle or you decide to do something, it turns out it doesn't work. If it's the right thing in your mind, then you win every single time because you learn from your failures. And so if you stick to doing the right thing all the time, you're not going to screw up. I had a recent experience where I worked with another hospital, and they thought that I made a mistake, and I may have said the wrong word, but my thinking and my actions were the right thing. And they went ahead and went behind my back and did some stuff, and they refused to work with me anymore for some reason. So that's fine. For me, I know I'm doing the right thing. I know that they're not, and I'm not going to deal with that they can find someone else to work with. And it makes my decision making very simple. I don't try to figure out how to work with them anyway, or go against my ethic, my focus, because your time's not worth it. That you only have so much time. Focus on the things that make you happy, and let's go beyond the typical. Let's talk about things that how we can impact the world together. And I hope that this talk gets you interested in Stoicism. That it's Stoicism to me is a philosophy that has affected me deeply, and I think about it every day. And it's because it's very useful. It's I'm able to use it every single day in my life when I come against problems. Everybody has problems. The trouble is we do suffer more in our imagination than really in reality. We make things up in our brains. And that makes us suffer. That Seneca said this. He's was a Stoic. He was probably there are three historical Stoics: Epictetus, who was a slave, a Roman slave, who became an eminent philosopher; Seneca, who was a senator in Rome and a writer; and then Marcus Aurelius. And those are the three. And I think that finding the way to use this in your life is important. I listened to a podcast. You can write this down if you want. There's a podcast called Farnham Street, Farnam Street. It's a podcast, and there's one of the podcasts is by William Irvine of how to live a Stoic life. I'd really recommend listening to it. And the reason why is, it's a long story, but he talks about the decision he made. He said he had a midlife crisis and was struggling, obviously, with his imagination rather than reality, because that's where we all suffer, and decided he wanted to become a Buddhist. And I kind of laughed, because when I was, in my early 40s, I was searching for something to stabilize myself. I struggled sometimes with the daily struggles we all do, working hard and getting recognized, and getting pissed off because people were angry at me, or getting angry at people because they weren't angry at me, or who knows. There was always something. And the operating room was difficult. My patients were difficult. The operations were difficult. I remember thinking about becoming a Buddhist. So I read these books on Buddhism, like there's one by the Dalai Lama called Stillness is the Key. And it didn't really work. It was too hard. Buddhism's tough. You got to go and really spend a lot of time and learn how to meditate and but you're also removing yourself from the reality with Buddhism. You're basically, sitting in an ashram or sitting on top of a hill and thinking. And it just wasn't really reality. You couldn't just pull yourself out of the operating room. So Irvine said, he was afraid of the effort it would take to become a Buddhist, and thought, let me just make sure there are other philosophies that I might consider. And he read about Stoicism, and he decided to become a Stoic. And I love this line that this is very Stoic, that the reality of where you are is always more important than the ideal that you imagine you should be. Think about that for a second. It's so perfect that, where you are is the mind part. And the reality of that is what's important. Accept it. And we all wish we had something else, that we wish that we had more, a bigger house, a better life, a better career. I want to be a neurosurgeon. I don't want to be a neurosurgeon. And that's all in your imagination. But the reality of where you are is what's the most important thing. And every single time, that's what's going to matter. And I think that, those are the things, that's one thing to consider. So in life, I think it's important to have a purpose, to be unselfish, be useful, avoid greed and selfishness, because you have to remember that life is a gift. Here I'm sitting, I actually took a day, we have a country house, and I'm hearing the birds singing like at the beginning before I got on late. The other thing is, when I was late, just to give you an example of how my brain has changed, maybe even a few years ago, I would have like freaked out. I would have been running around worrying and, getting upset that I couldn't get my Wi-Fi to work. It didn't matter. If you guys were here and waiting, that was the bad thing, but I couldn't fix it. There's nothing I could do. I just have to figure it out. And I did. And I knew my talk was short enough that I'd fit in an hour, but the fact that there's no one following me, I didn't know that until I got here. Hey, that's awesome. That way, if I'm a little bit late, I still get to spend a little more time with you guys if you'd like. And I didn't worry about it. And that's how it's manifest in me. Just simple things like that. I wouldn't have been like that before I started working on myself. I would have been, oh my God, I'm late for brain turns and they're waiting for me. Where's my Wi-Fi? Why isn't this thing working? Why can't I get on my computer? Not anymore, because life's a gift. Every single minute is a gift. Time is the most precious resource. Every single moment of your time is it's gone away when it's gone. It's gone forever. And so get today right and make today special, and improve yourself and try to live that way. I think that that as a specialty in neurosurgery, we can improve ourselves, and as doctors for that matter. I think that even as students in your lives, you can do the same thing. You can use these ideas. There are many aspects of this that are out there, ways to think about this, and think about what I'm talking about in a way that's sort of metaphor. So when things flare up, when your parents are upset with you, maybe they're right, actually. I have kids. They're probably right. When you reach a point in school where you're just overwhelmed by all the work, when you didn't get the internship you wanted, you didn't make the team, you didn't make the show, you didn't do well enough on your SATs or your MCAT. These are like waves. You're gonna be bashed with waves your whole life. Trust me. As a neurosurgeon, we're hit by waves every day, but you have to be the rock. Let them just hit you and just let you be the rock. There's another way to think of that. The mind is like muddy water. This is what Aristotle said, that the mind is like muddy water, that you need stillness to settle. You need to meditate. I actually did start meditating about 3 months ago. I'm happy to report I use the Calm app, which is terrific. And I've just to tell you that I'm not making it up. I can look on my Calm app, my stats. I've had a 22-day streak. That's real. And what it says there, I've had a total of 155 sessions with over 34 hours and 58 minutes of meditation since I started. See that? And that's what it's about. That's what's really helped me. And because meditation is necessary, it allows your mind to calm down. We're so, full of stuff all the time. I mean, my day in the office yesterday was just insane. So many things. When you're doing too much at once, you can't function. It's impossible. And I have to get better at that. I actually told my nurse about that yesterday. But and Aristotle, the famous Aristotle, basically was a mathematician. But these guys, if you think about it, they had nothing to do. They had no internet. They had no television. They had nothing. They made up. The Greeks made up shows like the Broadway moniker with a laughing face and the sad face. That's a Greek symbol. That's a famous. I can't remember the name of it, but that's a famous symbol of basically entertainment. And the Greeks made it up because they had time. They had all this time. And Aristotle would conduct his lessons by walking, because he felt that just walking, taking long walks every day, was an effective way of just calming your mind. And I think he's right. And I think that the things to think about to yourself are, how close are you to the person that you want to be? And although you are who you are, and you can't worry about the future, and you can't control it, and you can't, whatever you want to be doesn't really matter. So what matters is how you can improve yourself and what you can do to make yourself better. And I think that that's what this talks about, is getting you started, a bit different way of your using your brain. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard, and doesn't mean you shouldn't want stuff. It just should mean just work as best you can and don't worry about the end point. It's the result doesn't really matter. And don't take anything for granted, and don't take yourself too seriously. I think that's also super important. And this is the most important team, is your family. These are the ones that really define your efforts. And it is true that I take more from them than probably anyone else, for sure. They suffer the most from my transgressions, mostly my wife. But she knows me well enough. She knows I work hard to get better. And so she's the one who helps me the most, along with my son in particular, my youngest daughter, Molly, and my stepdaughter. And I think that's what ultimately really matters. And it doesn't mean you're going to spend every minute with them, but spend them as much time as you can, and remember those things. And I think that this is one way to find a future for yourself that really gives you a chance at being the best and the happiest you can be. So I'll stop there. I know there are questions. Quinn, do you want to run this?
Yeah, thank you so much. Anyone have any questions in the chat?
If there are a bunch of questions here I'm seeing as they come up. There's stuff in here having to do with before I get on. Yeah, it's the Calm app is the name of the app. I think it's a download for free, and then like anything else, it's a freemium, and then you start paying for it after you use it. How can we make good decisions without our mind being clouded? I think you have to just do the right thing, Luis. It's a matter of once you start doing that, it's really simple, actually. I don't think the mind's clouded at all. Once you focus on just the good things, and being humble, kind, and doing the right thing, decision making becomes very easy, I think, and your mind clears. The other thing about that is that you need to. I think meditation helps. That by meditating, you really limit your mind. You stop for a second, and then when you're not meditating, which is 99% of your life, awake life, you're better at just handling the cloud that's your mind. So that's I think the thing I think that I would recommend the most, as far as, I don't think my mind's clouded at all. It's always full, but you want to have a good way of thinking and a good way of behaving. I don't think Stoicism is difficult at all, Victor, because it's just, you don't have to do everything all at once. You're gonna find things that really bother you, and they're gonna be, and then you're gonna remind yourself, hey, this is the amount of time I might have been better. And you can make mistakes. You can always be better in life, but it's not difficult at all. I think it's very easy to apply. Even if I tell you today, from now on, you're going to go out and you're going to worry about what you can control. Okay, that's all you're going to worry about, because ultimately you can't control. If you get say you get in, what I'd like you guys to do is next time you're in traffic, and you're in the back of a car or driving in traffic, and you're late. That's a typical way we get upset. All of us. We're late for a class. We're late for a show. That's a perfect example of how to use Stoicism. You can't control the situation. Why are you getting upset? Oh my God, I wish I did this. Oh, my mom's going to kill me. Yeah, she might. She may be pissed off at you. Oh my God, my friends are, get calm. It's like, I just can't do anything about this. That's kind of what happened this morning when I was late. It's like, I just got calm. It's like, I'll just do the best I can. You guys let's wait for 10 more minutes. Maybe some people will drop off and get frustrated and say, this guy's a jerk for not showing up. That's the way it goes. Maybe you were thinking that. Maybe you said, wow, what an idiot. How could he not show up to us? That might have happened. It doesn't really matter to me, but that's the way it goes. I was concerned about getting on. I knew I had something to say. I wanted to be here. I wanted you to hear my thoughts because I spend time thinking about these things, and I knew I'd figure it out. So that's the result. And that's what Stoicism is. Considering neurosurgery is such a long journey, how should I prepare for the storm? I think that's what I've been talking about. I think that if you really want to do this, I think the more you can improve your brain, and the more you can, face the reality of what you're dealing with, the better off you're going to be. Other book recommendations. Let me give you two more. I've given you a bunch. I try to put them down. And other books. Okay. Emily Wilson, The Greatest Empire. Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. Man's Search for Meaning, which is incredible. Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War, and Thich Nhat Hanh, Taming the Tiger Within. How's that? Those are some more books. Any tips on consistency? No, Victor, you're not going to be consistent. You're probably going to be inconsistent. It's just a matter of trying. And I think that the fear, you're gonna fear, you're gonna have confusion, and you're gonna be upset sometimes. But that's part of growing up. It's part of overcoming obstacles. Is the way to learn. It's the way you learn how to operate. It's the way you learn how to be a better person. Look, I'm 59 years old. I'm still trying to make myself better. I couldn't have talked like this when I was your age, but that's why life's interesting. And hopefully you'll be able to feel this way from this talk. You'll go out with this and take this away from today. And even if we make a little impact on you, that would be a good thing. And you can change your life today. Podcast recommendations. Well, I'm in a bunch of podcasts where I've been interviewed about. One's called Fear Me Out. If you want to hear me talk anymore. But I think the best group of podcasts that I like are Shane Parrish, who is a great guy, called Farnham Street, FARNAM Street. They have unique podcasts once a week that are great. I'd recommend those. And I also listen to Daily Stoic every day, Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic podcast. So those are two to go for. You're welcome, Elena. You're welcome, Fatima Siddiqui. How has meditation benefited you, improved your performance as a surgeon? Well, as an example, Carla, you have a temper, and in the operating room, I just used to get super angry, and it's not good for anybody. It's one of my biggest mistakes in my career of being that way. Everybody knew that I was like that. They sort of tolerated it because I think I was a good operating room, a good surgeon, but it wasn't good look, and I think it affected my ability to be not only the best surgeon I could be, but probably affected my future in my organization, because I may have been not as looked at as calm and in control. And so I found that meditations really helped me there, and Stoicism as well, of just controlling what I can control and not wishing something else was going on, which is the ultimate thing. I mean, trouble is surgery is so intense, and I really like to be as best I can be. And so you often get upset when you're at a point of the case that you are struggling with, or when some equipment is missing or broken. So if it's equipment's missing or broken, I can't control that. I just have to wait. And if I'm at a point of my surgery that I'm struggling with, then being anxious is not going to help me at all. It's just going to make it even worse. So that's kind of how it's helped me in the operating room and helped me to improve. I hope that helps. Since my accident, do you feel it's allowed to take a step back and appreciate that professionally and personally? Yeah, I mean, Karina, I think it has. I think it's bigger than that, though. I think it really forced me down a wormhole of thinking of this whole talk came from that, of really changing the way, again, how you are between your ears, because this is all you can control, what's between your ears. So that's how it's made me focus on that a lot, and that's been helpful. How do you be consistent with it day to day and not let your emotions affect it? Well, JJ, your emotions are basically perceptions. The reality of what's happening is one thing, and the emotions, the way you're responding to reality. It's the way you're perceiving things, and that's what takes work. That's what because the reality is reality, and that's why focusing on just handling what you control is so important, because ultimately your emotions aren't real. It's just the way you're reacting to the circumstances. That's your own up here stuff. It's not the reality of the world. It's just your perception of it. So if you start to work on yourself, those perceptions begin to change, and the perceptions don't really matter. You don't make stuff up in your head. You don't invent some or imagine some reality that doesn't exist, and I'm better able of taking what's in front of me and dealing with it, and then making good decisions from there. How do you use? I told you, Sruti, same question. How do I utilize Stoicism in the OR? I answered that question. Tips for Dia Chakraborty, any tips for keeping your head clear in school? I think this entire talk is that. It's like, again, it's all the perceptions are in your head. You have to control that. That's the most important thing. And there was a great video on YouTube. You watched it to Dr. Alok Kanoja, the faculty of Harvard, a trained psychiatrist, better meditation and meditate. Recommend to anyone interested. I haven't seen it, but I might watch it. Thank you. This was delightful. Do you have any presentations on calm that you're? Yes. The best calm meditations that I keep track of. The one yesterday was just unfreaking believable. One yesterday was by Tamara Levitt, The Daily Witness, Witness, just Witness. That was just fantastic. The meditation called Witness. So that's the one I'd recommend. Failures in medical school. Well, again, what does that mean? There's no way when I was a medical student I could go do what I'm doing now. So I screwed up. I failed. I made a mistake. I reached a point that I couldn't continue. Yet I still was successful. So you're gonna fail. Just get used to it. Accept it. It's the way it is. It's life. That's how you learn. So how do we prioritize sleep? That's hard. It's definitely a big deal prioritizing sleep. I'm not as good at that. I have to get better at it. So you have to make an effort. Now that I've been meditating and I've been getting up early in the morning to do it, I have to go to sleep earlier. I try to be asleep by 9 o'clock. It's BS. Anybody says, people say, I don't only need 4 hours of sleep. That's crap. Everybody needs sleep. And, whether it's 6 or 8 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours, the more, the better for me. So I'll just go out there and admit that it's crap that you don't need sleep. So you do need it. Any good book, get a Stoicism. All the Ryan Holiday books I mentioned yesterday are great. That's the way to get into it, period. Start it with Ego is the Enemy. How do you deal with an angry patient family member who's being mean for no reason, Marianne? Well, first of all, you have to understand they're angry for a reason. And if you're upset, start pushing back. They're going to get more upset. So stay calm, apologize for whatever they're worried about, and then go from there. I think that's always the first thing. Just they're the customer, and you just have to accept that they have a point probably. How do you deal with people not 100% believing in you or believing in yourself, especially those who are your support system? My support system, I think, mostly believes me, but it doesn't matter, Kira. You have to believe in yourself 100%. That's it. You know, what everybody else thinks doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I hate to say it. And they'll come along with you once you continue on this way. So worry about yourself first. Don't worry about what there's no support system. The biggest support system is right here. Yesterday, you mentioned earning an MBA as a medical student. Can you explain? Yeah, I mean, I think a master's in public health is probably as good. It's not as deep into business. I think that's because healthcare is becoming a business. It is a business. Healthcare, like I said yesterday, is a massive bureaucracy, a big company, and it functions more and more like, hospitals are much more like, a Fortune 500 company in some ways than they ever are like hospitals. When you think of like Grey's Anatomy, of how they're run, the incentives you all have. So that's why I said to get an MBA. How do you deal with worries of disappointing people in medical school or otherwise? Again, that's just you. You're worried about it's your worry, it's your emotion. You're perceiving something, and I don't. Now, I used to. You can't. What they think or disappointing somebody, that's their perception of you. You can't. You can barely control perceptions of yourself. How you can control perceptions of somebody else? And that's a flywheel you're on, a negative flywheel. Oh my God, they think I fucked up. Oh my God, I'm screwing up. Oh, they're thinking I'm screwing up. That's not good. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you go back, would you still have gone into medicine? Absolutely. I would definitely be a neurosurgeon. It's the best field on earth. It's amazing. Incredible. There's nothing better. I would do it again. If accepting reality of where we are means giving up on your goal, the North Star, what's next? Do we keep on trying to find a detour to reach the goal, or just, accept the fact that if something's failing, then you got to figure it out and make it better. You may have a trajectory you want like this, but it's going to be up and down. So you always can have your goal. You may have to modify it sometimes. That's okay. If you keep hitting up against the wall and the wall is never going to change and you see no way around it, you may have to really give up and try something else. But there's nothing wrong with that. You learn along the way, and I think that's important. How should we discipline ourselves? Because most of the time it's very hard to manage everything. I know, Quinn, or at Adina, it's very hard. What your generation deals with is I'm so sorry. It's very hard to manage everything. And that's the purpose of the talk, that this is one way, that's one way to stop trying to manage everything and just manage your head and your perceptions and what you can control. That's all you can do. That's the ultimate thing that gets us freaked out, right? So the way to manage this whole stuff is managing yourself first. This is saying, in the OR, that when shit hits the fan, check your own pulse. It's true. Being a doctor, have you ever developed a paranoia that you may be sick or start looking into your symptoms? Yes, that happens to a lot of people, where they start learning about something and then they actually think they have a disease. It hasn't really happened to me, although one time I thought I might have prostate cancer, but it turned out not to be true. So I was a little bit anxious about that. How to deal with stress? What helps you personally? I think this entire talk's about that. If you've asked a question before, I'm going to skip you because I think I'm going to get to people that haven't asked questions. Alan Jimenez, I'm a second-year undergrad in Puerto Rico. Is there any way I could shadow in Lennox? So yes, shadowing is available at Lennox. You need to email. I put the email in the chat. Get us an email. We can hopefully hook you up. And in the summer, it's super busy, but hopefully we can get you in. It's best to come off when it's not peak time. Assume to give arrogance, albeit frowned upon, as prerequisite. No, I don't. I don't think arrogance is good in any field. It's certainly not necessary. It happens, and yes, the reason is because it's a reflection of people who don't understand themselves, and it's going to continue to happen. But no, arrogance is not necessary for anything. So remember that. Here's an off-topic question: if an operation footage is used in nanometry, would you plan to do it? I'd say it's great for. Is your operation footage used in any anatomy lectures? I try to use it. I sometimes don't really plan to do it. And thank you for the compliment about it, how great it was. I thought it was pretty cool too, the way we did that yesterday. Carla, I am writing a book, in fact, and the book I'm writing is basically talking about Stoicism and how I learned about it and how I feel like it's along the way, how the 4 tenets of Stoicism, you can write this down, are courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. Courage, wisdom, temperance. I mentioned one of them before: courage, wisdom, temperance, meaning equanimity and responding, being the rock in the crashing waves, and justice is doing the right thing. And I started thinking about how that applied to me in medicine and neurosurgery, and I realized that I'm getting better at this, and I'm still working. But there are 4 complications I've had, 4 cases that, in each one taught me justice, one taught me temperance, one taught me wisdom, and one taught me courage. And so the book is based on that concept and my injury and going forward. So that's how that happened. So I am starting to write a book. I appreciate all the thanks. I'm glad I was able to do this. I have no fear of failure. But what's the point? Failure's good. Take a shot. Any advice in my time in medical school? I think I've talked about this a lot. And again, start with managing yourself and doing the right thing. And you have to sometimes say no. That's one of the hardest parts. I've never had a patient be physically abusive to me. Hamster wheel is correct. I like that. What do you do when you find yourself stressing out about things? I don't try not to get stressed out anymore. High schoolers, you can shadow us at best in the summer. So apply for next summer's internship. Yeah, the book. I don't know when it'll come out. It's a positive shadow with Lennox when you're from Germany. Yeah, come visit. Just have to find a place to stay. The other specialty I considered was cardiac surgery. And where do you draw this is a great question. Where do you draw the line between healthy and unhealthy ambition? Wow. I think unhealthy ambition really is when you aren't aware of what you're doing, and you focus on the goal at the exception of everything else, and you eliminate, and you fail to modulate and recognize if you do it too much and don't take time to meditate, take time to walk, take time to spend your family, take time to focus on those things, and it becomes unhealthy because that balance and those are important parts of your life. I have a little bit of that in me, honestly. I do. And so I appreciate that, but that's something you have to really deal with and make sure that Quinn asked me that question. So I'll think more about that, but I think part of it is that you've got to find balance in their life, and it means you have to spend time thinking and spend time with the people you love, and taking time not doing stuff, and the future and your goals can't be at the excuse of everything else. Research opportunities they're all over the place. See, how do we find more research considering imaginary very base, average research 23? Yeah, I mean, that just goes, you just have to seek them out at whatever university you're at, and there are research opportunities everywhere. You have to find a good mentor. Have you ever experienced burnout, and what did you do to recover? I never really did. Probably my biggest burnout was after I came back from getting hurt, and I went back to work, and I went back too early, and I was like, whoa, like this is insane. And so I had to slow down a little bit and recognize that how hard I was working before, and maybe that wasn't so healthy. It crept back onto me pretty quickly though. So any inspiration to my upcoming book? The biggest inspiration is living a life as a doctor and as a dad and as a neurosurgeon. Those are the inspirations. Forming a family was what you liked. Did you ever thought about no, I didn't. I was hopeful I could form a family. You never know. Sometimes you just have to meet the right person and go from there. Do you know any movies? No, I don't know any movies that exemplify Stoicism. If you think about it, my favorite movie that probably does is Gladiator, honestly. The movie Gladiator. That's Marcus Aurelius is the emperor in there. And I think that Russell Crowe's character, the ultimate gladiator, is a Stoic for sure. So there you go. If you could send my email again, I'll put it in there again. Host and panelist. If you could send that to everyone, that's fine. If I don't respond right away, I'm sorry. Or if I miss it, it gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So we'll do the best we can. All right. How is that?
That was amazing. Yeah, people could ask questions for hours. They're just like keep going in the chat. I just put Dr. Langer's email in the chat for everyone to see. Yeah, thank you so much. People
Well,
love
take
it.
the rest of the day and start doing this stuff now. Don't just listen to talks. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it was good just one talk today. It seems like a great group and really great people.